First of all, I gotta I have to mention that although these Gemaras are quite familiar as far as the topics are concerned, and it's so easy that you can, just listen to the daf anywhere else, at any time. The fact that we can sit down here, bekvias, at nighttime and discuss new.
Yes, it's wonderful.
It's a wonderful thing that we're alive, and things that are on my head, come
Right.
out, and the things that are on your head,
Right. No, it's a wonderful thing, and I thank you.
yeah, right. Interesting. Okay, we are holding over here. Just to review, very simple. It's gonna be a quicker daf, obviously. Again, we're talking about. Let's imagine that a person's at home and you're drinking a glass of wine, and you have an apple. You made a bar priya eights, and you made a bar priya guffin, or the opposite. You made a bar priya guffin, and then you made a bar priya eights, and you all of a sudden the Amazon truck pulls up in front of your house, and you walk out of the house to take a package. When you come back to your house, do you have to repeat a Bayra Priya Gafen and a Bayra Priya Eitz? So we saw a three-way machlokes, just to put it all together. Rabbi Yochanan said that you never have to make a bracha. Shina Mokoim, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Echad Shina Mokoim Ein Tzarach Levarach. When you change your place and you come back to the original place, but changing your place means that you never had intention to go to that place, but you went outside, you come back to your house, no matter what, you do not have to make a new bracha. Then the Gemara gave a tiyufta against Rabbi Yochanan. That cannot be, because the Brisa says, Shina Makam, you do have to make a bracha. When you come back into the house, you would have to make a new bracha. So we saw the opinion of Rav Sheshis, and Rav Shesha says that no matter what you're eating, whatever you're eating, if you come back to the house, you have to repeat the bracha. Okay, so you have to make a bar priya gafen, and you would have to make a bar priya eitz. But we saw the opinion of Rav Chizda, which is the in-between opinion, which he said that it depends. Since a bar priya gafen, when you have to make, you're required to make an al hagefen. And therefore, you automatically are stuck to that place, because suppose you started to take a walk and then you remembered, you started to head to the train, and then you remembered that you didn't make an al hagefen. You have to go back to the original place to make the al hagefen. You have to go back home to make an al hagefen at the place you drank the wine. So therefore, you're always, so to speak, stuck, anchored to that place, and therefore, the kula of that is that if you would go out to the Amazon truck, when you come back into the house, it's almost like you never had hesach hadas. Hesach hadas means you never lost your focus. You're always intention to come back to your original place, and therefore you would not have to make a new Bayrei Priya Gafen. On the other hand, the apple, since the apple, the after bracha for an apple is Bar Nefashos, when you walk, let's say you finished the apple and you started walking down the street to the train station, and you realize you didn't make a bar nefashos, you're not anchored to that place. You can make a bar nefashos on the street, because a bar nefashos is something you do not have to go back. So that's the qualifications. So therefore, when you went to the Amazon truck, it's as if you had a shinu makam, because you lost your focus, and therefore when you come back into the house, you would have to make a new bar priyates. And that's these words over here in the Gemara. Loi amram ella bedvarim she'ein tuna bracha la'achrein mekayim. When did we say that you have to repeat the bracha? Shinu makam tzarich levarach is only if it's a bracha that you never had to make the after bracha in its place. But if it's a type of item that you're eating that you would need to make an after bracha in its place, let's give examples. Like I gave the example of wine, but obviously benching is this and the same thing, and alamechi is the same thing. So since you would have to go back and make the same bracha, the after bracha in its place, you do not have to make a new bracha. So if you went to the Amazon truck, you come back out, but you don't have to make a new Bayra Pri HaGafen, but you would have to make a Bayra Pri HaEitz. And that is the opinion, the middle opinion of Rav Chizda. So then the Gemara brought a question. And the question over here is that we learned the Brisa that says that there was a group of people that they sat around to drink, like they were in the bar. As I said, they were drinking wine. All of a sudden, they greeted, all of a sudden, out of the window, they see a chassan or a kala coming. So the Brisa said that if they decide to go out and dance for the chassan and kala, they do not have to make a bracha when they come back. When they leave, they certainly don't have to make a bracha, but when they don't come back, they don't have to make a new bracha. Well, that seems to agree with Rav Chisda, because wine is not considered an akiras makom. It's not like you're leaving your place. But then the Gemara adds this qualification. If they left in that place an old man sitting, that one old man or one guy, a sick person in the group, you could not dance with the chassan and kala. He stayed in the bar. So, and everybody else left. Then when everybody comes back, they don't have to make a new bracha. But if everybody got up and left, then they would have to, when they come back, they would have to make a new bar priya gafen. So why did we add this qualification of hinichu zaken or chayla? According to Rav Chisda, it doesn't matter if you left somebody there or not. You could be drinking alone, a bar priya gafen, and then go outside to the truck, because it's something you would anyway have to come back anyway to make an alagefen. So even if you didn't leave anybody, when you come back, Rav Chisda said you don't have to make a new bracha. And this brisa seems to say another condition of leaving zaken or chayla. So the answer is that yes, that opinion that you need to have somebody remaining in the group is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. But the Chachamim disagree. And then the Gemara brought this brisa that the Tanya, let's start from the top of the page. The Tanya we learned in a brisa. Chaverim shahaya mesubim v'akra gleim. There were a group of people they were in the Kuf Beis Amanal, top line. Chaverim shahaya mesubim. A group of people were sitting around eating. Let's say they were eating. It doesn't say they were eating or drinking, but presumably not drinking wine or eating bread. V'akru lagrayim, and here's the key word. They got up, uprooted themselves, leilech lebeis haknesses and lebeis medrash, to go to shul or to the beis medrash to daven mariv. They don't have to make an ala gefen or a benching when they leave. They don't aim to urim bracha lechatchila. When they come back, since they were going to come back anyway, they don't now have to make a new bracha if they want to continue to eat. So if they want to continue to eat or drink the wine or eat more bread, they're permitted to do so without a new bracha. And this is the opinion of Rav Chisda, basically. But Rabbi Yehuda adds this qualification. Rabbi Yehuda said, when they left over, the condition is if there's somebody who stayed behind. So if there was nobody left behind, when they come back, when they come back, they need to make a new bracha. Now, so the Gemara is now, this is where we left off yesterday. But you could see over here that according to the Chachamim, that it's only because they were eating hamotzi and they were eating, let's say, drinking wine. But if they were eating an apple, because it says va'akru gleim, so it's mashma that they were eating something very significant, like drinking wine or eating hamotzi. But what happens if they were eating an apple? When they come back, everybody agrees they have to make a new bracha. That's what it comes out, even according to the Chachamim. But wait a second, we learned Rabbi Yochanan had an opinion that said that if you're eating an apple, when you come back, you don't have to make a new bracha. So here we have a beferish brisa, another explicit brisa against Rabbi Yochanan, and that's this Gemara's kasha. Elataima, the reason is the dvar maturim bracha lachem koinim dikshei yotzin into the bracha lemafreya. It's only because they're eating something that would needed to be, you had to come back anyway to make the after bracha. That's why if you want to continue to eat, you don't have to make a new bracha. When you don't, so therefore you don't have to make an after bracha. You don't have to make a new bracha. If it's something like a burn of farshers, an apple, right, a candy, that if you would not need to come back to its original place to make the after bracha, afilu l'rabbanan, even according to the Rabbanan, when you leave to a bracha l'mafrei, you should make your burn of farshers. Even if you came back and did not make a burn of farshers, to una bracha lechila, you would have to make a new bracha. This would be another knockout blow to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that even if you made a ha'etz and you go out to the truck, when you come back, you don't have to make a new bar priya eitz. So, and this seems to qualify. It has to be something significant that you're eating. So the Gemara asks, why are you asking against Rabbi Yochanan? Think you already knock out Rabbi Yochanan one time? You already brought a brisa against Rabbi Yochanan. Why do you bring another brisa? So the Gemara says that's not true. But maybe we can say this brisa also is a knockout against Rabbi Yochanan, because sometimes you need another brisa to push away Rabbi Yochanan, because if the first brisa turns out to be a brisa that was written in error, sometimes they had brisas that was like an error brisa. It turned out there was a big mistake. So then you don't have a knockout blow. That's why we try to bring more brisas that prove Rabbi Yochanan wrong. So would you say that this brisa also would disagree and be a knockout blow to Rabbi Yochanan? Have a reputation. Rabbi Yochanan says this brisa is not necessarily a refutation against my opinion, because I could say that the Rabbanim would agree that even if you were eating candies or apples or the like, you would still not have to make a new bracha. Who did? The Rabbanan, it would be so that even if you're eating something that you don't have to go back, like an apple or a candy, the Rabbanan would also hold you do not have to make a new bracha. So then, why does the Brisa talk about a case akru lagrem that uprooted their feet? In other words, the Brisa seems to imply that the Rabbanan only said their opinion of not making a new bracha only if you were eating something significant, but not something like an apple or a candy. The answer is the Rabbanan would hold that you never have to make a new bracha, like Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. But the reason why it grabs a case of hamoitzi or wine, to tell you the strictness of Rabbi Yehuda, and that's a big chiddush, because even something that you would think that the person has to go back there anyway to make the after bracha, the Rabbi Yehuda would agree that even if nobody is left behind, you would still not need to make a new bracha because you had to go back anyway. So now we saw that the strictness of Rabbi Yehuda is that the time of the only reason is that Nichem Miktzas Chaverim. Rabbi Yehuda only said his opinion only if somebody was left behind. But if nobody was left behind, when you leave, you need a new. You should make an after bracha. Even if you returned and did not make an after bracha, so the whole point is to tell you how strict Rabbi Yehuda is, because even though Rabbi Yehuda is the more asadig opinion, it's more of a chiddush to tell you how strict he goes to say that you cannot just not make a brand new bracha rishona. It's only if somebody stayed behind, then you don't have to make a bracha rishona, even though you were eating hamoitzi or a geffen or wine. But if not, even Rabbi Yehuda would say you have to make a new bracha. Then the Gemara concludes.
Bernard, I have a quick question. Bernard, if someone makes a motzi and leaves, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if he comes back, I'm assuming that, let's say everyone left, and he comes back to the house where he originally washed and made a motzi. Does he have to wash again before he makes a motzi, or did he just make another motzi?
Well, the washing has nothing to do with the hamotzi. The washing is because your hands may have touched a part of your body that's uncovered or tameh or something like, or gotten dirty.
Okay.
But if you were concerned about your hands, then you don't have to. If you're certain about your hand, you don't have to wash again.
So you just make another motzi, and that's it.
You make a hamotzi.
Obviously, without even doing a berachat acharona or benching in between, you just do another motzi.
Right, because right,
Mm-hmm.
the netilas yadayim. Yes, there is a concept that right after you wash, you should make a hamotzi, take it for the netila bracha, but that's not because they're so connected. It's that they're just that that there's something to that, but generally they're for different reasons.
Okay.
But this is not what we paskin. Like people people, wash and then they go to the Rebbe's tish to finish the benching there.
Right,
They
right.
eat hamotzi there. So without making a new hamotzi. So this is
Right.
just a strict opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Tanya Kavosli Rav Chizda, another brayso of Rav Chizda. Chaverim shayim mesubim lishtos yayim. A group of people sat around to drink wine. Bakra Gleim, then they get up. The chazar, and they came back to the original place. So it's wine. Ein tzrichem levarech. They don't have to make a new bracha. And this is what the Rashbam says over here. That we say that it was Rashbam is over here on the bottom of the page. He just lays it out for you. The bottom line. Shinu yayin. You never have to make a new birchas yayin. Shinu makoim. So if you're drinking, it's not. I'm using the example of wine, but I mean the seven. If you're eating a pomegranate, that would be the same din as wine. Shatun and bracha lachrei, because you always have to make after you eat a pomegranate, you're also going to have to make a bracha me'ein shalosh. So therefore, if you eat in this house and you go to another house, or you eat in this thing and you went to the street, he says, so then you don't have to make a new bracha. But shar peiros umashkin. Let's say you're drinking an apple, an orange, or drinking soda that's not from the 7 species. Then, if you leave your place, you have to come back to. You have to make a new bracha. But then but if you go from one corner of the room, like one corner of your kitchen, to the other corner of the kitchen, even if you're drinking water or fruit, you don't have to make a new bracha. The big question that comes up is if you have a drink in your kitchen, and then you decide to go up to the bedroom with the same drink, would you have to make a new shahakol? That's why it's very important to have like a t'nai before you start the year, that anytime you make a shahakol, you mean the whole house, that it should include the whole house. They say that has validity to it. So that takes away the problem. Because if you didn't have that in mind, according to the strictness of the din, the strictness of the way the Mishnah Brura would paskin, is that if someone made a bracha on an apple in his kitchen and decides to go upstairs to his bedroom, so then he would have to make a new Bayra Priya Eitz. Tanur Rabbanim. Back to the I love these cases. Tanur Rabbanim, Rabbi's Torah, new case. Bnei Chabura Misubin, they were sitting around, they ate lunch Friday afternoon. Okay? And their lunch extended. Nobody's going to shul over here. The Kiddush Aleim Hayom. And all of a sudden, now the sun set and it's Shabbos. So the first Bryce says that we encountered this opinion. They bring 1 cup of wine. Right away, you should say Kiddush. Okay? Because this is this opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And the way the Rashbam explains it, it means that the guys are really supposed to have Kiddush b'makom suda. And now it's dark and they have to make Kiddush. So they pull away the table. No, there's no table in front of you, just a cup of wine. That's the point. You have to pull away the table and just a cup of wine, and then you make Kiddush. Then I'm not sure if you wash again, but it implies that they bring back the food, and then that becomes your new Shabbos meal. And then when you're ready to bench, you make Birchas Hamazon. For Sheni, you have to bring a second cup for Birchas Hamazon. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to pull away any table. This is supposed to be, according to Rashbam, even when it gets dark, continue to eat your Friday meal. Okay, just don't stop. You're enjoying yourself, enjoy. Gamru, now we go to Kufbeis Amacheni. Gamru, if they finish the meal, so Kosh Rishon, then they bring you 2 cups. Kosh Rishon, Mevarach al Birchas Hamazon. The first cup you make Birchas Hamazon, so you bench, and the Hasheni, Oimalav Kedushas Hayom. And then the second one, you make Kiddush Hayom. In other words, when you're benching, they used to pull away the whole table. So then there's nothing in front of you. So the first cup you make Birchas Hamazon, you put down that cup, you take another cup and say Kiddush. Kiddush b'makom su'uda. But we explained that Rabbi Yossi's opinion is you could eat first and then make Kiddush, and that helps you with Kiddush b'makom su'uda. So now the Gemara asks this question according to Rabbi Yossi. You see, according to Rabbi Yossi, the 2 cups are in front of you at the same time. So, right, first you're going to make Birchas Hamazon, and then right away you're going to make Kiddush, and that's it. You go upstairs to sleep. So the Gemara says, Amai, why should you do such a thing? Make both the Birchas Hamazon and the Kiddush on over one cup. Why do you have to make two separate cups? Use the same cup. Amarav Huna Amarav Sheshes Ein Oimrim Shtein Kedushas Al Koisecha. You don't make two Kiddush, two holy things on one cup, benching and Kiddush, because my time. What's wrong with that? Amarav Nachma Yitzchak Lefi She'ein Oisen Mitzvahs Chavilas Chavilas, because we don't want to make the mitzvahs like a bunch of bundles that you have to unload. Rashi says, the Rashbam says, the chavilas, the mechazei alai kamasoy. It looks like a load. When you trying to get things, get in, get it done, get out, right? That type of attitude it's almost like degrading to the mitzvah. That's why we make it in an order. Take two cups, even though you could do it on one cup, make Birchas Hamazon, and then pour yourself another cup and make Kiddush. So the Gemara challenges that. V'loi, you never make two brachos, two mitzvahs on one cup of wine. What Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Hanichnas lebeisu b'matzah Shabbos. A guy comes home on Matzah Shabbos, right? So what do? Mevarach aliyah. First, this is the seder of Havdalah. First, you make a bar priya gafen, val hamor, and then you make a bar ma'or eish, val habsamim, and they make a bar b'nei masamim. Obviously, we don't do it this way. This is the opinion of Beis Shammai. But that's not the point. We do besamim first, and then we do bar ma'or. Okay, fine. But then it says, the Brisa says, then you say, Baruch Mavdal ben Kodesh L'chol. So that's what your normal Matzah Shabbos. Then you eat your Malava Malka. Says the Brisa, let's say you only have one cup of wine, right? So what do you do then? And you want to eat Malava Malka, and there's a mitzvah, even if you're eating by yourself, to bench over a cup of wine. So you only have one cup of wine. If you're going to use it up for Havdalah, for your Malava Malka, you're not going to have a cup of wine anymore. So the Brisa says, Menicher la'achar hamazon. You eat first, and then umishalshlin kulin la'acharav, and then afterwards you'll bench and make Havdalah, and that will be all on one cup. So you go benching and making Havdalah on one cup. Now you can ask me, but we know you're never supposed to eat before Havdalah. Okay, but here is a case where a guy only has one cup, so they allowed him to eat before Havdalah. But the point of the question is, this ends the question. How are you allowed to make Havdalah and benching on one cup of wine? You told me the concept of Ein Oisim Mitzvahs, Chavilas. You're not allowed to do two mitzvahs on one cup of wine. So the Gemara answers simply, Ein Loi. If there's no other choice, Sha'ani, then that's different. Ein Loi Sha'ani. If there's no choice because you only have one cup of wine, then we allowed you to do two mitzvahs on one cup. So the Gemara challenges this. One more question. Let's say this year, Pesach is Matzah Shabbos, right? So what are you going to do? Yom Tov that falls after Shabbos, the Islay. Everybody has wine that first night of Pesach, right? Everybody has wine. But Amarav, Rav says, Yaknaha. What is Yaknaha? Yayin, make a bar priya gafen, Kiddush. Ner, you make a Havdalah. Ner means bar me'or, and Hey stands for Havdalah. So you look in the Siddur, that might be the order, right? So Yayin, Kiddush, Ner, Havdalah. That's how you make the order. But right away you see that you're making Kiddush and Havdalah on one cup of wine. Now, so the Gemara says, Michlal, Amrei. Now, Amrei, they answered, Mid Deloy Omar Zman. The answer to this question is, since Rav didn't mention anything about Shehechiyanu, he's not talking about the first night of Pesach, like I've said. He's talking about the last night of Pesach. Miklal de B'Shvi Shel Pesach Haskina. The last day of Pesach, it's the last day of Pesach. It's talking about a guy that only had one cup of wine. Why? The Chol Ma Dahavale, anything that he had, all the wine that he had, Ochale. And this is the last day of Pesach. And the last seventh day of Pesach, that comes out Matzah Shabbos, the Leslie, and he doesn't have. And that's why Rav says you can make the Kiddush and Havdalah. You're right. Maybe he should make the Kiddush and Havdalah two cups of wine. But Rav was talking about the seventh day of Pesach, and the seventh day of Pesach, nobody has any food left, or nobody has any wine left. And therefore, Rav allowed you to make the Kiddush and Havdalah on one cup. So the Gemara answers, challenges back, and says, that's not true. I'll prove it to you. You agree that in the first day of Yom Tov, everybody has wine. V'amar Abaya, and Abaya says that the order of the first night of Yom Tov is what I'm telling you. Yakze na, Yayin, Bar Piagafen, Kiddush, Zman Sheche Yanu, Ner, Bar Meru Eish, and Havdalah. You're making Kiddush and Havdalah, and you're making Shech Yanu, and it's the first night of the Seder. That's how your Kiddush should look. Rava says, like what we do, more familiar. Yayin, Kiddush, Ner, Havdalah, Zman. Bar Piagafen, the Kiddush, Bar Meru Eish, Havdalah, and the end off with Shech Yanu. But the bottom line is that it's the first night of Pesach, plenty of wine is flowing, and you still allow a person to make Kiddush and Havdalah on the same cup. But you just told me, ain't oisim mitzvahs chavilas. You can't make a mitzvah, bundle a mitzvah onto one bracha. And since the Gemara, Ella, the answer is, Havdalah v'Kiddush, you could bundle on one cup, because chada milsihi. That's one idea. One's saying goodbye to Shabbos, one's being Mekadosh Yom Tov. It's almost a similar type of mitzvah. Birkas HaMazon v'Kiddush, benching and being Mekadosh a Shabbos, right? Benching on a cup and being Mekadosh Shabbos, Turei Milininu. It's two concepts, and therefore it should be separated out on two cups of wine. And so that's why we answers that question of why Rabbi Yossi said you have to bring two cups, one for the Birkas Hamazon and one for the Kiddush.
Why doesn't the Gemara ask, isn't chavilos for Dalit Kosos and Kiddush?
Dalit Kosos and
the first of the Dalit Kosos,
right,
is the Kiyam in the Dalit Kosos, and it's the same cup we're using for Kiddush. Or is that Chad Milsahi too?
That probably would be Chad Milsa. Wait, so what you're saying that assuming that we know if it's a separate din that you're supposed to make Dalit Kosos for Vaitzesi, Vitzalti, Vigalti, right? So that's one mitzvah. And then there's a mitzvah of Kiddush that's every Yom Tov. So how did the Gemara didn't answer that? How are you putting that together? That's a good question.
About that, unless that's obvious that Kiyam, the Drabanan that was Masakin, the Dalit Kosos connected about Seis Visalti, Vigalti, Vilakachti, or whatever other reason, that was Kiddush was inherent. It was obvious that Kiddush was part of the first kos.
And so that's a big Kiddush.
Yeah, that's a Kiddush.
The biggest, the original Takana. So now you have to look into the Yesod of what the Dalit Kosos were. Right. Very interesting.
Right. And this year, Drabanan, right? Motzei Shabbos, Kiddush on Yantav is only on Yayin is only Drabanan. On Leil Shabbos,
right?
When it's Friday, stay there. So then you have a Darais of Kiddush, you have a Drabanan of Dalit Kosos, right? But the Gemara doesn't ask about that.
It's a brilliant question. So that's a good question.
Bernard, I have a question. What would be? I'm not sure if it's. I read something in the Mishnah Berurah, but if let's say you could make Havdalah on milk or beer, and most people had beer then. So if you had one kos of wine left, would you bundle the Havdalah to two mitzvahs in one, and just prefer to use the kos for both, or would you separate it out and use one kos for one mitzvah, and for the Havdalah you would use beer or milk?
So that's
preference.
That's an interesting question. I mean, I guess if you have Chamar Medina, then you should separate them out. Right. That's right. You should separate. That would make sense to separate it out. But I guess what the Gemara is talking about is the guy, the deli closed. You can't get even a.
You can't get anything.
He can't get anything.
Yeah.
But you see, the Taisus already points out that it's such an important idea. I don't know, it's lost in our time, that we allowed a person for nothing. You're not allowed to eat before Havdalah. But when you don't have only one cup, because it's some sort of danger that the Gemara discusses about eating before Havdalah, and yet it's suspended for that.
It's an exception.
I always say that the mitzvah ain't oisin mitzvahs chavilos, to make the mitzvah look like a bundle. It's such an important concept that when we give it over to the kids, we got to tell them how easy it is, how not difficult it is. When a person always expresses himself, how so difficult it is to be a Jew, and how so difficult it is to pay for tuition, and how difficult this is, and how difficult that is. that sends a message to the children that it's not worth the struggle. I don't, you
Right.
see you always stressed out by
Right.
go running to the Marav and running to the Shacharis and not being in the mood to go here and spending this money. But the idea of Einois Mitzvahs Chaviras extends beyond this. But the idea of expressing outwards that it's not a burden. It's not something that stresses. So B'yis Hashem. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. We'll continue about tomorrow night.
Shikoyach.